I'm Dale Morrison, 62 years old, and I've lived in Pinewood Estates for 17 years. I bought my house back when this neighborhood was just regular folks looking out for each other. Then about 3 years ago, the HOA board changed hands. That's when everything went sideways. It started small. Notices about my grass being a quarter-inch too tall. Citations because my mailbox needed repainting. Fines for parking my motorcycle in my own driveway overnight. I paid them all, kept my head down, tried to follow their endless rules. But it was never enough. The Thursday it all came apart started like any other morning. I was in my garage working on my Harley when I heard the pounding. Not knocking, pounding. 3 people in green HOA enforcement jackets stood at my door like they were serving a warrant. "Dale Morrison, you're in violation of Code 17-4, barked Linda Prescott, the head of enforcement. She was maybe 55, with sharp features and eyes like a hawk. Behind her stood 2 younger officers, Marcus Chen and Beth Hammond, both looking uncomfortable. "What violation?" I asked, wiping grease from my hands. "Unauthorized vehicle repair on residential property. We're authorized to enter and document." "Now hold on," I said, but Linda was already pushing past me. Marcus and Beth followed, their eyes darting around like they were searching for contraband. They photographed everything. My tools, my bike parts, the oil spot on the concrete I'd been meaning to clean. Linda's voice was cold as ice as she rattled off violations, her pen scratching against her clipboard. "That's a $500 fine, plus $200 for the driveway stain, and another $300 for excessive noise complaints." "Noise complaints? I barely run the engine." "We have reports," she said, not looking up. "You have 72 hours to pay, or we begin lien proceedings on your property." They left me standing there, $1,000 poorer, feeling violated in my own home. That's when I made a call. His name is Jake Hammer Davidson, and we've been brothers since Vietnam. Not blood brothers, but the kind forged in rice paddies and firefights. After the war, Jake found his peace with the Iron Knights Motorcycle Club. Over the years, I'd ridden with them on weekends, shared beers and stories, but I'd never asked for help. Until now. They did what? Jake's voice rumbled through the phone like distant thunder. He was 64, built like an oak tree with a gray beard and arms that could still bend steel. I told him everything. The harassment, the fines, the way they'd stormed into my home. "Saturday," Jake said. "We ride." That Saturday morning, I heard them before I saw them. The rumble of 20 Harleys rolling through Pinewood Estates sounded like a summer storm. My neighbors came to their windows. Some looked scared. Others looked curious. Jake led the pack, pulling up to my driveway with precision. Behind him came the Brotherhood. Tony Wrench Martinez, 60, with gray in his ponytail and laugh lines around his eyes. Raymond Preach Johnson, 58. A former minister who found God spoke louder on the open road. And 17 others, each with their own stories, their own scars, their own reasons for understanding what it meant to stand up for one of your own. "You ready?" Jake asked, his voice gentle despite his appearance. I nodded, climbing onto my bike. We rolled out together, a river of chrome and leather, heading straight for the HOA headquarters on Maple Street. The building was small, just a converted office space, but it represented every petty power play in the neighborhood. We parked our bikes in a perfect line across their lot, engines rumbling, then fell silent. Jake led the way inside. Linda Prescott looked up from her desk, her face going pale. Marcus and Beth stood frozen by the filing cabinets. "Can I help you?" Linda's voice tried for authority but came out thin. "I'm here about my brother Dale," Jake said, his voice calm but carrying weight. "See, you folks made a mistake. You treated a good man like a criminal for working on his own property." "We have rules," Linda started, but Jake held up his hand. "Let me finish. Dale served his country. Came home when others didn't. He's been a good neighbor for 17 years. Pays his dues. Keeps to himself. And you come banging on his door like stormtroopers over some grease spots?" The room was quiet except for the ticking of the wall clock. Tony stepped forward, his voice softer than Jake's, but no less firm. My daughter lives 3 streets over. She got fined because her kid's chalk drawings on the driveway violated aesthetic standards. Kid was 6 years old, Raymond added. My nephew got cited for having his work van parked overnight. He's a plumber, working man, trying to make a living. One by one, the brothers shared their stories. Not threats, just truth. Tales of HOA overreach that had touched their families, their friends, their community. Linda's face changed as she listened. The hardness around her eyes softened. Marcus and Beth exchanged glances. We're not here to cause trouble, Jake said finally. We're here because trouble already came to one of ours. And we're asking you, neighbor to neighbor, person to person, to remember what community really means. He placed a folder on Linda's desk. Inside were printouts, HOA complaints from across Pinewood Estates. Elderly Mrs. Chen fined for her garden gnomes. Young veteran David Park cited for his American flag being too large. Single mother Jennifer Walsh threatened with liens over her son's basketball hoop. These are your neighbors, Jake said. Not violators. Not problems to solve. People trying to live their lives. The silence stretched. Finally, Linda spoke. Her voice different now, almost human. I didn't know, she said quietly. I thought we were maintaining standards, making the neighborhood better. Better for who? Raymond asked gently. Not for the folks living in it. What happened next surprised me. Linda sat down heavily in her chair, suddenly looking older than her years. My husband left me last year, she said, words tumbling out. I threw myself into this job because it gave me control when everything else was chaos. I never thought about what I was doing to people. I just followed the rules. Beth stepped forward. Some of us have been uncomfortable for a while, but Linda's been here longest. We didn't know how to say anything. Jake pulled up a chair, his massive frame somehow gentle as he sat across from Linda. Listen, we all need purpose. We all need to feel like we matter, but not at the cost of other people's peace. They talked for over an hour, not arguing, talking. By the end, Linda agreed to review every citation from the past year. The board would hold a community meeting to revise the most oppressive rules. My fines were erased. As we filed out, Linda caught my arm. I'm sorry, Dale. Truly. I looked at this woman who'd made my life hell, and I saw something I'd missed before. Just another person struggling, making mistakes. We all lose our way sometimes, I said. What matters is finding it again. Outside, the Brotherhood mounted their bikes. The rumble of engines filled the afternoon air, but it sounded different now. Not like thunder. Like harmony. Jake clapped my shoulder. That's what brothers do. We show up. Thank you, I said, the words insufficient but heartfelt. Thank us by living your life, Dale. Work on your bike. Make some noise. Be yourself. We rode home together, the sun warm on our backs, the road stretching ahead. That evening, I worked in my garage with the door open. No fear, no looking over my shoulder. Just an old veteran and his Harley finally at peace. Sometimes standing up for yourself means standing with others. And sometimes the loudest statement you can make is showing up and speaking truth with kindness. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about real people finding their way back to what matters. And drop a comment below telling me about a time someone stood up for you, or you stood up for someone else. We're all in this together.